spend time.
Still have a thriving local economy.
And we're very fortunate.
Chapel and Carrboro is a beautiful place to live.
Have more connectivity with more bicycle
plans in place for the bikes.
So some residents have said that increasing the number of rental units and housing density can increase rent, but some have also said that making more rental units available can keep costs down. So do you believe that increasing housing density can keep down rent?
I think it's less about housing density than it is about housing supply. And I do think that housing supply is one tool we have for addressing affordability.
Yes, we need to have higher density. And along with that, I think that we need federal and state support to really make affordable housing viable.
It's really important the type of housing we're building. If we're building more luxury apartments, then I think average prices are going to go up. If we build more affordable housing, we can bring prices back down a little bit.
Adding housing to Carrboro in general is a good idea.
So with the high property taxes in Chapel Hill and in Carrboro and in Orange County, that makes it very difficult to have affordable housing.
I do believe increasing housing density can bring down rent.
Should students live off campus, and if so, how would you protect them while balancing the needs of long-term residents?
Absolutely. We'd love to have students living off campus in Carrboro.
So I absolutely believe that students should live off campus, certainly in Carrboro.
I do think that when students live off campus, certainly it's very important to balance the needs of the residents with the needs of the students.
They should be welcomed into the community. They're an integral part of the fabric of the community.
So students live off campus because on-campus housing is expensive. You look at how much people pay for a dorm, 2 people in one dorm, it's equivalent to what one person pays for a single room in Carrboro.
I think students, like all of our other residents, should live wherever they can and want to live. And if that means off campus and in Carrboro, the more the merrier.
Do you believe in climate change? And if so, what should be the town's first steps once the election is over?
I do believe in climate change, and I do believe that humanity has had an effect on the environment, certainly with rising CO2 emissions.
I don't need to go into the science of it. It's clear that we have climate change. We have 2 plans that the town of Carrboro has passed related to climate action. Several years ago, we passed a town climate action plan. We've already been implementing that. We've already been trying to reduce our energy usage. We've already been adding in electric vehicles. We've already been trying to cut down on the kind of driving that our staff does.
Working at the neighborhood level in carrots and sticks and kind of encouraging and inspiring neighborhoods to take on actions locally.
Global warming really requires action at the local level, and that's going to be very tied to our land use policy.
The steps that we should be taking after the election are many of the same steps we're already taking. We don't need to wait until after the election. In fact, Carrboro has already been working on some of these climate action items.
So one of the things that I would really like to see implemented in Carrboro, and I'm very passionate about this, is the elimination of single-use plastics.
What are your views on the development of the Lloyd Farm property?
Well, I voted in favor of the rezoning of the Lloyd Farm property.
It's a wasted opportunity to not have achieved a mixed-use, higher density development on that property. If you look, there's also a sea of parking, and it's contrary to where we have to be if we're going to be dealing with climate change. The other issue of that property is already the neighborhood that's right downstream from it is because of climate change too, adapting to floods, and so creating impervious surfaces through that development is only going to exacerbate the flooding that's happening in that neighborhood.
I think the Lloyd Farm property could be an excellent way of adding some lower cost housing and also adding tax and sales revenue to the area.
We really need to be mindful of, those ideas and those pieces that are put in place, that they stay in place to help the residents as much as we can.
The Lloyd Farm development, which is the equivalent of 4 Carmill malls, will help us with that process of broadening the commercial tax base and long-term sustainability.
What we need to be moving, I think, toward is a more urban, compact form, and the Lloyd property proposal is not that.
What are your views on making Carrboro more bike-friendly and open to more methods of alternative transportation?
Yeah, so I would actually look at transportation in general as being an important issue for Carrboro, both bikes and pedestrians as well as public transit. So
we need to identify those thoroughfares and continue to utilize getting safer bike lanes and development to take into consideration cyclists and pedestrians.
We used to do a lot more work, and we're always trying to work on that plan, trying to be more safe in intersections, trying to have areas where we have competing, where we have like sharrows and cars, trying to make sure that the cars understand that the bicyclists have rights to the road.
We also need to be promoting biking and walking, and like I mentioned previously, maximizing mixed-use density in our downtown so people can walk and bike to the places where they live, play, and work.
Identifying the places in town where people, when they're on their bicycles or when they think about being on their bicycles, feel the highest levels of stress. And so our approach to the bicycle update and to improving our bicycle network is in addressing those high stress places for cyclists.
Look at using more greenways and trails for bicycles, because surveys show that people are just much more likely to get on their bicycles if they don't have to worry about all of the car traffic.
Should there be a role for UNC students on community advisory boards?
Absolutely. We are very fortunate to have students in our town.
There should be and is a role for students on advisory boards, and I wish more students would get involved in our advisory boards.
There should be a role for university students on our advisory board.
I absolutely believe there's a role for students on advisory boards and actually on the board itself.
I would love to see more UNC students sitting on the advisory boards.
And I think that getting on an advisory board is so important to have the student's voice continually heard.
What should Carrboro look like 20 years from now?
20 years from now, Carrboro should look like a place where people want to spend time walking around, lingering in our downtown business district, and feeling comfortable there.
I would like to see Carrboro still have a thriving local economy, still have a lot of great food spots, local food spots.
A place where people are growing their food locally. Walking, biking is, we're on par with some European cities. There's infrastructure for biking, for walking. Cars maybe aren't in the downtown.
I think Carrboro needs to work on growing up and out while continuing to protect the rural buffer and continuing to ensure that our surface permeable lots, we need to make sure that we have a plan for inclement weather, for climate change.
I definitely see a lot more density in Carrboro. So maybe a lot of the buildings will be 4 or 5 stories. I can even see commercial on the lower level with some residential stories, stories on top of that.
Carrboro must work to maintain its vibrancy, its inclusivity, and its welcoming of people from all over.
What is your favorite place to eat in Carrboro?
Oh wow! At the risk of upsetting all the restaurants, for certain things I have to go to certain places. So I've just got to say I have to talk about a certain thing, and people know this. I love Tyler's fried pickles. They are the best fried pickles around.
Perfect. That's all we had. Thank you so much for coming in. That last question was the hardest one for everyone.
Oh no, that's not a fair question. Really, you're asking me this?
Important question.
My favorite place to eat in Carrboro. God, that's a tough one. You're gonna get me in trouble with this, but I'm gonna say Acme. Yeah.
Yeah.
If I have visitors from out of town, they go to Acme.
My favorite place to eat in Carrboro is Pizzeria Mercado.
Favorite place? That's easy. My wife is the most amazing cook. I love eating at home.
Oh man, that is one of the toughest questions. When I'm feeling like that, I need to get out. I'm an omnivore, so I really enjoy getting a chance to try some of the great vegetarian and vegan selections that they have at the Spotted Dog. I also am a consumer owner of Weaver Street, so I love to hit their hot bar up. The Armadillo Grill, there's nothing as great as their queso dip, and that's probably one of the reasons I have to fight the battle of the bulge.
What's your favorite place to eat in Carrboro?
Hands down, the Venable.